Welcome back to the Unexpected Podcast. My name is Justin Mahwikizi, and our guest today is Justin Ahrens, who's a chief creative officer, I'm sorry, of Roll 29 and O'Neill Printing, which is an interesting story how those companies came together. Justin, welcome.
Thank you. And it's wonderful to be with another Justin.
Yeah, it's going to be very confusing for our audience today. Listen, I follow what you do online as well as some of the work you've done, and I thought it would be a great conversation to understand what being a brand strategist means in today's world compared to when you got started in the industry back in the '90s as an art director. Can you tell us more about that concept, how your career has grown, what today's environment looks like?
Yeah, thank you for that question. Thanks so much for having me on your show. So, uh, what is exciting about today's creative world is I think more than ever, people understand, even if they don't understand necessarily totally what a brand is, they are familiar with that word. They understand that it often represents a company or an organization or maybe a service that they really enjoy. And what is key today, and this is an interesting part of the design creative space, is it's always been evolving and transforming and moving. I think, today's technology with AI and everything else, is probably the most obvious example. But, when I started, for example, there was no internet used for commerce, right? So it was more of print an environmental magazine, etc. And so a brand strategist needs to not only understand, the power of um, great position creative, but also understand what are the hopes, dreams, mission, vision, values, customers that a particular company wants to connect with, and then take all of that information and create a platform or a system, point of view, and a framework to make sure that business connects with those clients in the most consistent, engaging, authentic way, both internally with employees and potential future employees and their customers.
Yeah, we always forget the employee as an audience as well,
Right on.
to drive mission and strategy. Now, one of the hardest things that entrepreneurs, or even today's, it could be very experienced business owners, have is finding who their audience is. Right? It's very easy to say, I want to talk to everyone who makes $1 million a year. How do you help your clients, or how do you approach fine tuning who that audience is, so that you can design a system around them and have a communication system deployed?
Yeah, there's a lot of different entry points that you can take to help them discover that. Ideally, when we're interacting with an organization, and again, this is different with startups. Often with startups, we're helping them figure out um, questions such as, you have this idea. Does the world need this idea? Right? That's a question that a lot of people don't ask. And if they do need this idea or product or service, what are you uniquely doing or helping with, or what pain are you solving that competitors or others adjacent to what you're doing don't do, or you could do better, right? For those organizations that are established or been in business for a while, typically when we interact with them, there is either some, let's say, downturn in their market or in their organization, not always, or they see the fact that they have been doing things a certain way for a certain amount of time, and they want to make sure that they're aligned and ready to go into the future. So what we always start with is what we call really the foundational parts of a brand, right? And so that is really what makes you unique in the marketplace. What is your kind of personality and presentation in the marketplace? And then what makes you someone that customers would want to interact with? And then who are those customers? And do you really understand what their needs are? And so again, some companies really know their customer well and maybe aren't engaging with them at the highest level, or there's new technologies that they're not utilizing yet that we can help bring into their ecosystem. Other times, I just met with an organization the other day. They are by far the leader in this particular category, but there are other companies that are telling the stories better,
Mm,
more engaging, more modern, and they're gobbling up market share when their product and services aren't as good as
right.
this larger organization. And so we take them through that process and say, hey, you may be the Coke of your industry, um, but you can't sit on that forever, right? Because other organizations are going to find opportunities. And so there's a myriad of ways that we do that. But again, we first start with listening and asking a lot of strategic questions on what they think is going on. We, of course, doing our own research. We also do, uh, um, especially with today's world, a lot of data mining to just get a full picture of what the opportunities are.
With the advent of a massive scale of data, and I know you're a proponent of AI supporting today's workers, not necessarily replacing them. How have you taken advantage of it? How have you tried to bring it into your workforce? And what's the uptake on it? And what challenges or opportunities have you seen integrating the new technology into what you do?
Yeah, so I think what's interesting to me, a lot of times when I have conversations about AI, it tends to always start with, let me rephrase that, it tends to often start with the dangers of AI or um, uh, how it's replacing this or that. And I think that's unfortunate because used well, used right, and understood how to use it, AI has given us the ability to again, data is the easiest use case, right? So for example, we would do this company I was telling you about earlier. We researched um, a large spectrum of people. It usually take us a couple weeks to get through all of that data to be able to have our findings and go through that. And now I can put that in a closed environment so it doesn't train any large language models, ask it a lot of questions, prompt it with our process, and get some really insightful, deeper clarity and produce back to the client a better product in less time. Now, I don't want you to hear me say AI is great because it speeds everything up, because I think that's an issue, right? Is
Right.
uh, not taking the proper time to have your agency over it. But what I see is it gives us a deeper understanding and gives us time to iterate and research in ways that I think everyone always wishes they have more time and more ability to do that.
Yes.
And so I think that's a big, huge win there. Um, and
Especially,
so, and
no, go
go
ahead.
ahead. No,
I was
no,
going to
go
say,
ahead.
especially if it brings more value to your client, which is really the goal at the end of the day.
Absolutely. And what I've really loved about it is we have created a couple of our own, um, custom brand aligned AIs that I literally have conversations with. Like I ask them to ask me clarifying questions, tell me why the strategy doesn't work, and actually have it challenge me with the power of all the data on the internet, right? To have me see things differently. And so and again, you have to understand how to do it right, make sure that the data you're getting is accurate, and there's a whole amount of things you have to do there. And with that said, I think it gives any size organization, but especially small to mid-size organizations, a massive opportunity to just create better product and to learn from it.
I agree. When you mentioned that you want to have your clients have a conversation with their customers, their ideal customers. In today's world, what are the different venues or avenues that companies can use to have that conversation? Especially if you're a smaller company trying to compete with a larger, higher market share company. What strategies have you seen the smaller competitors use to gain some of the market share?
Yeah, so again, I'll work backwards, right? So for example, one of the things that we talk about on the AI side of things is if you can um, put together a really solid, authentic engagement where customers can interact with it in a thoughtful way. Um, it actually gives the clients more insight and more opportunity to ask questions. But I actually think the most valuable part of it is the data that the company gets. We've seen um, clients have conversations with an A interaction or a hybrid interaction where we're getting much more intimate data. They feel free to ask any questions, right? And so that is just priceless in so many levels. I think that social done well is still a fantastic way, and a growing way, a continually growing way to interact with clients, depending on how you approach it. And I think really thinking about any um, loops that you can create where your clients can give input, ratings, um, reviews, advocacy, and even on the vibe coding to app creation side, you can today create a interaction short-term brand experience where customers can interact and give you really insightful feedback, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, there's just a really wonderful set of ways to do that outside of going to trade shows, or you can of course have online webinars, that sort of thing. But yeah, a mixture of all those things are seem to be a really great way to do that.
Great. Now you've been running your company for, I believe, 20, is it 26 years? Did I get
Hmm.
it right? Okay.
Yep.
And you're part of now a printing company. You're part of that family of companies. What drove that union between those two companies? Was it an acquisition or was it more of a partnership? And how is that working out for you guys?
Yeah. So O'Neill Printing was and still is our oldest client. I think we've worked with them for every year that we've been in business, except maybe one, so 25, 26
Wow.
years. And, our industry, there's no doubt, has changed and evolved. And so we were looking into how could we create opportunities in two directions, right? From whoever we joined and for whoever brought us on. And this seemed like a natural extension because we aligned on mission, vision, and values. They saw the need to have an agency capability, something they could help deliver to their clients. And we already use them for a lot of our print, promotional, and environmental.
I see.
Um, and then we also have the shared services model, right? So one of the challenges for I think the largest we were, I don't, not that necessarily headcount matters, but I think we were 18, 19 people. And uh, it just was hard to hire those services to, do everything from, finance, HR, and all that sort of thing.
Yes,
So
yes.
now that we have that
Oh, so
together,
combine. Oh, I like that.
yep,
That's
yep,
good
yep,
strategy there. Instead of
yeah,
bringing a
and
full-time CFO and all. Yeah.
right. So now that's been great. So then everyone can stay in their lane and do what makes them amazing, and it's been wonderful.
That's outstanding. And tell us more about the collective that you're also part of.
Oh, the Ninefold Collective?
Yes.
Yeah. So in the printing industry, like most industries, there's a lot of acquisitions, right? Where larger print organizations will buy smaller ones or regional ones so they can have a footprint in those spaces.
Right.
And the challenge with organizations like O'Neill, it's been around for 116 years, um, and other organizations like theirs, um, solid print companies, but they're always competing with these larger organizations. So, for example, if a national chain came to O'Neill, O'Neill could absolutely do every piece of work they would need, but they couldn't do the national distribution because they don't have footprints in, the East Coast or whatever
Yeah.
else.
Right. Right.
So this collective of printers and marketers said we could come together and do that work in collaboration. So that's what happened. So someone on the East Coast might get a particular project. They might not have the equipment to do it. One of the other partners could do that, and then they could, share in that outcome. Other companies like name a national brand, they could come to any of the companies, and then they could deliver it nationwide and into Canada.
Right.
So it's a really smart way to approach and open up opportunities where you don't have to have the larger organizations that a lot of them do great work, but you also pay premium for that.
Of course.
And I would argue that the service and the quality is not better than what we provide.
No, I agree, and I think it's a strategic move to put that collective together. And I wish that kind of model could be used in different industries as well, because it gives
Yeah.
you economies of scale. It allows you to compete with bigger bids, and showing that there's capacity involved. And some small businesses have not thought that way, so it's pretty smart that you guys put that together. Um, in working in branding throughout the years, I'm assuming you're getting to know people very well. And
Mhm.
hearing some of your speeches and presentations, you always relate to how humanity evolves, etc. Can you tell us more about it, why it's so important to you, and how you're combining that within your work?
Yeah, I think what's been really fascinating, and one of the things that I just personally enjoy is um, the brand structure, right, is really about story. And I believe every one of us are designed to see themselves in a particular story, right? And so great brands can help someone see themselves in that story or see them using that product or service, right? And what often happens is when you're working with leadership, there's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of loneliness at the top. And so part of our job that I didn't realize when I first started was having these really, often vulnerable conversations with leadership and finance and understanding, hey, are we making the right decision? You know, how can we be more authentically ourselves? How can we impact, the world, however you define that, you know? And those are really honorable, incredible conversations. On top of that, then how do we communicate that authentically to an audience in a way that is responsible, right? So I think, you know, our job is to get you to engage with a company or service, and we want to align ourselves as well with ones that we believe in. So there's multiple facets to this, right? And then finally, internally, I want to be a part of a company or run an organization that believes that what we do matters. And so all of these things together, I think, are extremely important. And quite honestly, as human beings, who doesn't want to get up in the morning and be excited about what they do and proud of what they produce,
Right.
right? And so I have discovered over time that it has become rewarding, um, educational, challenging, and also connecting to be able to have these conversations just really openly, right? And it's taken a long time to learn how to do that, and I'm still learning how to do that every day.
Yeah.
And so, we used to be a B corporation at Rule 29, and when we became part of the O'Neill companies. It didn't make sense for the entire platform to turn into a B Corp. So we actually created our own framework called On Purpose, and we are slowly sharing that out with like-minded organizations to really kind of take your mission and vision off the wall and then actually learn how to live, walk, and talk it every day, both with your leadership team, with your larger team, and with your clients itself. And so that has become something that is unbelievably important to us because I think that you can make, and I believe you should believe, and again, it's not for everybody, um, make impact on what you do. And how can you show up for those sitting next to you or across from you on a screen?
Walk us through how the on purpose actually works. Is this a flat organization type of thing? what does that look like?
Yeah, so the concept behind on purpose is first you go to onpurpose.today or .work. I should know that. Yeah, it's onpurpose .work. And when you go there, it really talks about the different aspects of what leading with purpose means, right? And really, I think when we talk about culture, I just had this conversation with a friend the other day. Often talk about culture, 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 right? And I think what's that famous line? Is it strategy eats culture for breakfast or culture eats strategy for, I can't remember.
Yeah.
Uh, but the conversation went to perhaps it's not so much about culture that we should be talking about, it should be connectedness. And that connectedness comes from purposeful action. So if you say that you believe in these things, right, whatever those are you living them out every day? And often I would get questions in these conversations with leadership. How do I do that? So the on purpose website and framework is you would go to it and say, these are the things I believe in, and I'm committed to sharing those publicly and internally. And it's really just an honor commitment, right? I honor to do that. And then we provide um, uh, frameworks, templates, content that organizations can use internally, and then they can also post them externally combined with their own unique approach to those items, or they can just share the content as is, right? And uh, some of that is similar to organizations like the B Corp, where they would supply you with how to talk about a certain um, scenario or framework. And I think I love the B Corp experience, but it was for a certain type of client, right? Or a certain type of organization. And so we wanted to create something that anyone that wanted to have this a part of what they did had access to that. And then over time, we believe this will grow into a more interactive scenario where some people will want more, right? They'll want to actually have perhaps a cohort or a group of leaders that they can talk to you about, let's say, challenges, wins, struggles, or different ways that they want to highlight their values. And so we see that happening. We've been testing that idea a little bit with a concept called at the table.
Right.
So you could go to is, and what we did is we started bringing together um, four different leaders. Um, they don't know each other, and we just spend 2 hours with them, guiding them through a conversation. And we've had 14 reservations so far. And what comes out of that is this deep personal desire and need to have people that have these different perspectives, right? That can have a conversation where there's no performance, no PowerPoint deck. We're just talking about the things that really influence their business. And so that's been incredibly rewarding, and also, again, kind of proving out to us that there's a need here.
No, for sure. And actually, when I've hosted in-person executive luncheons, you see that most of these leaders are walking a somewhat lonely road, and being in the same room where everyone is at least facing the same type of decisions, not necessarily solve all the problems, but it recalibrates the energy for that leader to move forward and keep going with that. So I think that's a great concept.
Yeah.
That's In what ways have you found in your career that the need for at the table has been needed for you personally? So 26 years, have you been at a certain points where you just wished you had some folks who just shoot some of those ideas, or how did that idea come about for at the table?
So, see, 2 years ago, at the beginning of 25, um, uh, one of my one of my key collaborators, Brian McDonald from Wonderkind Studios, we've traveled the world working on brands together, working in developing countries to, working in, affluent situations, and just witnessing, experiencing just all the things the world has to either challenge us with or provide us with. And as technology is growing, we're like, what do we have right around us that we wish that we could experience? And so one of those big points was um, not networking in the sense of networking to get more work. Of course, we want that, but what could we do that we think um, perhaps leaders don't get a lot of? And that is a break, a
Mm.
pause to come and no strings attached. We provide the food and the drink and the location, and we just ask you to give us your most prized possession, which is 2 hours of your time. And with that, we um, at the end of the reservation, I share with them a summary of what we talked about. Nothing confidential or personal is shared, but it's just like here's the theme of the night. And then every past reservation gets a copy of that. And then we've even created um, a private community where people can go and just see the topics. And we're starting to see a through line of themes that come up. And that wasn't, and again, we still have zero. Um, uh, uh, I'm not going to say idea. I mean, we want to keep doing it because it's also very enriching to us personally to be able to provide this space. But also, I think it continues to remind Brian and I that in all the things that life throws at us, right? Whether it's you know the economy is challenging, or business is slow, or a rough client, or maybe an employee situation, um, whatever it is professionally, the things that keep bubbling up that we really care about are these connections,
Yeah.
are the people that we love in our life, right? And we tend to forget about that because things seem to be moving so fast.
No, I agree. When you say you've gone to different countries, I know you have some nonprofits you've supported, so some missions that are near and dear to your heart. Can you tell us more about those, the experiences, the countries you've been at, and some of the results emotionally for you, but also when you saw some of the work being done in those communities?
Yeah, so I, fortunately, throughout my career, I've had the opportunity to work with a lot of, even when I first started, one of my first agencies I worked at, we did a lot of nonprofit work, but a lot of the people on the team didn't necessarily give it a lot of time. And so I didn't know at the time, but I was aligned with that value-based type needs and work, right? And so I spent a lot of time in that space. And then when Rule 29 was started, our tagline is to make creative matter. And there's a, a lot of dimensions to that. But one of it is how can we make how we see the world, what we can uniquely give to the world, matter to our clients and those around them, and whatever world is to them, right? Whether it's their company, the region, whatever, or literally the world. And in 2012, we were helping an organization rebrand and that did uh, work in rural areas in different countries in Africa and also the cities. And they said, you can't do any work for us until you come and see what the day to day is like.
Yes.
And that was one of the most brilliant, life-changing. I'm so grateful for that. And that literally changed my entire worldview and how I approach our work. And since that first trip, I think it was to Ethiopia and Kenya, since then we've gone back there a couple times, and then gone to South Sudan, the Congo, Uganda, and then we actually started a new project where we're going to go to Malawi this fall, where we're working on some hospital um, environments to help healing.
Wow.
And so it's been, yeah, it's been an absolutely
Amazing.
incredible experience. Yeah.
Now, for all these trips in these countries, you're doing separate different functions, or are you doing the same type of activity? What's What does that look like?
Yeah, so the first couple of trips was rebranding, NGOs that worked in those countries, and so that would be the quote unquote the classic brand structure, right? From helping them be able to tell their story, identify their donors, have a donor strategy, and build them infrastructure to do that more consistently. And then there was about 6 years where we actually created a project to support a couple of the activities that we cared about, which is around the world water crisis. And so we actually built an organization called Wheels for Water, where we actually were both the client and the output. So what we did is we over 6 years helped raise just over $1 million to help Life Water at the time do this work. And what was incredible with that is, we were able to use our ability to tell story and to create community
Yeah.
and built that. So, then from there, this next project is for Cure International, where they have I think it's 8 or 9 hospitals throughout Africa and one in the Philippines that are giving surgeries, free surgeries to kids that have debilitating, situations and giving them, a whole new life. And the hospitals are state of the art and amazing, but a lot of them are white and sterile and are not conducive
Right.
um, to. They could be more conducive to healing, I guess is my point. And so we spent the last 2 years working with them and the graduate program at Kent State University to do research on the power of culture and color and story to help people heal. And so our first hospital that we're going to be installing is in Malawi, and we will be, working on how to track results and then ideally be able to reproduce that in other 8 hospitals.
The color is a meaningful thing,
Mhm.
right? I'm not sure what colors you've found in your studies on what helps the healing or the calming, or whether it's orange or green or not. I don't know if you can share that. What are your thoughts on those studies and those concepts?
Yeah, so I mean, it's undeniable that color and a calming atmosphere helps lower your cortisol, helps you feel calm, that all enhances your healing. I think that the the work really has been around culturally is a color set or an approach or even iconography like animals that we might highlight. Um, Something that we might use in Malawi may not work in Ethiopia,
Right.
right?
Right.
Where we are, the Westerners tend to not to be triggered a little bit by yellow or red. Those may be calming colors in other cultures. So
Right.
that's really where a lot of our work has been, even to the point where we were using um, like playful animal illustration iconography and we found out some animals that we thought would be friendly were not considered friendly, right? And so that is also a really great learning
Absolutely.
to look at and even think about in this country from different just cultural perspectives, right?
Yes.
How
It's
someone who is from a different background or a different culture sees items. I think we tend to see it from our point of view too often, and that's always a great reminder.
No, it is because culturally everybody's got different archetypes, different storylines. Like you said, the power of the story. And so when I was still in banking, I'm an independent bank now, but boutique investment bank. But when I was still in banking, we were going to go overseas. We had to study those cultures to understand. Some signs here in America might mean something baseless, but over there could be an insult, and what kind of color to wear, not to wear, based on their cultural differences, especially between Asia and the West. Very, very different nuances that you should know. And from that perspective, within the healthcare setting, I can see it. I can see it. Hopefully, it's going to be life changing for everybody involved, all the stakeholders.
Yeah, I think it will, and I agree. I'm excited.
Yeah, and then once you find what works, bring it over here stateside because some of these hospitals, not
There's
the
there's
same
there's
image.
actually a lot of good work done stateside for that. I think
Okay.
there's a whole other set of issues around, how people see what is valuable and what isn't valuable. But more times than not, in certain parts of every hospital, you can see a lot of it. A lot of it is shows up more in like the maternity wards,
Yes.
and in some of the special kids hospitals, they understand that. But yeah, I'm with you.
Gotcha. Here's what I'm impressed by your story here is that once you have an idea and you have a concept that could work, you're quick to test it out and see what happens on purpose at the table. Where does that kind of thinking come from your perspective? Is it from your growing up? Is it through your career, or that's not just how you are? What comes
Hmm.
from that kind of experience?
Hmm. I actually think it's a combination of things. I think technically it probably comes from my belief in the power of design thinking in certain contexts, right? Is which is, you know, come up with a theory, do your homework, test and iterate. And I also think it's the longing to connect, and quite honestly, to be really is to find my place in this world, right? And so I think it's a combination of all those things. And I also feel unbelievably fortunate, to have had the experiences that I've had. And I want to continue to learn from others. It's really easy, I think, and I've had phases of this where I've just felt really comfortable and I'm like, I'm good,
Mm,
right? And fortunately, and it felt unfortunate at the time, but fortunately, life kicked me in the butt,
yeah.
and it gave me the opportunity to recalibrate. And so I'm just committed to trying that. I think the challenge I have is at times I have too many ideas,
Yeah.
and I want to do them all, and that is also unhealthy.
Yeah, how do you manage that? Because in 2015, I attended a Knight Foundation kind of presentation on human-centered design concepts, and I caught that bug where you had to have an idea, you want to iterate, see how it goes, quick to change based on if you're winning or losing, depending on what's happening, but it can get out of hand. And so, how do you manage the funnel of ideas and what you implement and what you put on the side?
Yeah, I mean, I think I share ideas with a lot of trusted friends. Um, my wife's a great barometer of that, right? She can call me out on just, you know, yeah. But I also think at this point we have a pretty good starting point, right? Like I think we have a process to know, like, I think this is worth some time here, and and that's really kind of how we started. And I think that also, I have 4 kids, and they're all adults now, and I desire to continue to have a connection with them, of course. And so I think it's understanding, where do I want to spend my time? Where do I want to invest that time?
Right.
But honestly, it's one of those things that is constantly challenged me, because when I have an idea that I fall in love with, I can't stop thinking about it. And so that's when I start sharing it with friends, like, hey, you know me, what do you think about this? And luckily, I have friends that don't just agree with you, right? They're just like,
Yeah.
I don't know,
Yeah.
that sounds like something you absolutely should not be doing right now.
Yeah.
So
Well, what I do, I have 4 kids myself, but much younger kids, 2 boys, 2 girls, and but I've started an idea bank, and it's this
nice.
long idea bank, and I tell them, hey, when you guys grow up and you run out of ideas of what to do, go through Dad's bank and see if you can figure something out of these crazy ideas that came to me.
Oh man, I love that.
Yeah, no, it's fun, and I hope hopefully it works out. Um, Now you are coming out with a new. No, it's actually it's available for pre-sales, pre-orders for a new book. Tell us the concept, behind it, what you're trying to communicate to the reader, so our audience can be made aware of.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. Yeah, so this is something I started in 2020, and it's hard to believe that it's just coming to fruition now, talking about my desire to pace things out. So the book is called Being Humankind, and I the title means a couple different things to me personally. So one is what state of being do I want to be in? Presence, curiosity, kindness, introspection, brave, whatever those things are. And then how can I apply that in a way that is both human, right, but also kind? Because I think oftentimes we'll look at kindness as something that is weak, right?
Yes.
And I actually have come to find that to be human, to be authentically who you are, and to be kind is actually an incredible superpower that I think we often tend to forget. And so I think yeah, the book is really split into different states of being, and then I dig into the different ones, right? And so I think it takes courage to pick times to look at yourself and to
Yes.
make the shifts that you need to make. Because I think there's time where we want clarity and we want to have compassion, and we get so distracted by the world and our imperfections, right? And so this is really a book split into 29 states of being that I dig into each one. I give people prompts and takeaways and exercises for them to do it. There's even places to take notes there.
Okay.
And my desire is after this book launch and sharing with it, that I'm actually going to come off with different novellas digging in more into certain states of being. And so I'm excited about it. It's something that I've been working on both for myself, but over, like I said, the last 6 years. And I'm really excited to share it with the world.
I love the concept, and we're gonna share the link to the book and to the video when it gets posted on all socials. But the idea that there's so many different types of um, speeds, essentially, that you can run your life on is very critical for some of the young kids nowadays who grew up in a certain mindset and they think that's all there can be. So it's
Right on.
great that you're showing that you have a choice. There's a universe of decisions you can make.
Yep. I agree 100%. And it's one of those things where oftentimes I think people don't think they can make the decisions, and you can always make that decision.
That's outstanding. If someone is interested in getting in touch with you, whether it's about the book, some of the companies that you're involved with, how do they reach you?
Yeah, so again, obviously you can always go to my LinkedIn page and connect with me there. And also go to Being Humankind today if you want to reach me around that concept, or go to rule29.com. And there's a way to reach me directly on all of those platforms.
That's great. One last question, actually, I should have asked earlier. Rule 29, what's the meaning behind the name? What's the story there?
Yeah, so the story is I wanted people to ask me what the name meant. So thank you. Um, and uh, and the reason why I did that is really to get into this exact concept I was sharing with you earlier about storytelling. So, like, what does Rule 29 mean? And then that would give me an opportunity to tell you a story
Right.
of that. I believe that a good brand strategy, right, can really bring people in and start a conversation. And so, as every company has their golden rules, right? Is that rule one? Is that rule 15? Is that rule 29? And so for us, our golden rule is rule 29, and that's of matter. And then we get into a conversation about it.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Well, Justin, thank you so much for your time today. I've enjoyed learning more about your background in the book and the concepts and your philosophy about the world. And hey, good luck with the book. We're going to publish it on our side, and we hope that maybe in the future we'll have a conversation again.
I love it, Justin. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Have a great day.
You too.